Again, my name is Doug Levin. I am the director here at the K-12 Security Information Exchange, or K-12 SIX. Today's webinar is about K-12 SIX membership and the benefits of becoming a member. Um, a little housekeeping before we get into today's agenda. As always, we are recording this webinar, and we will make the slides available as well as the recording shortly after the conclusion of this webinar. We have muted all participants, but as you can see, the chat is open to all, so feel free to chat amongst yourselves as today's webinar proceeds. But if you do have a specific question for me or any of the other panelists today, go ahead and use that Q&A panel in your Zoom interface. That way we won't miss the question. We'll try to monitor chat as well, but of course it's a little hard to participate in the webinar and monitor chat at the same time. And then finally, at the end of today's webinar, we will throw up a QR code, and that is not to phish you, rather it is to send you to a quick little survey to get your thoughts on how we did on today's webinar, and that will help us to program more content for you in the future. So today's agenda, I said this was going to be a webinar about K-12 SIX membership and the benefits of being a member. I'm going to begin with a little bit of an overview of K-12 SIX, but then I'm going to invite my colleagues and K-12 SIX members to join me for a discussion about the core benefits of membership. Before I let you go, I am going to let everyone know about free and low-cost public-facing resources that we make available to everyone. So whether or not you are a member, we do make a number of resources available to those who are interested. And we do that because as a nonprofit, it is core to our mission to try to uplift all in the sector with respect to their cybersecurity posture. And then, of course, we will do what we can to address any questions you may have. Now, let's talk a little bit about the leadership of K-12 SIX. I am the founder and director of the organization. I've been working in the education space for, it pains me to say, but 35 years at this point. And over the course of that time, I've really focused at the intersection of education, technology, public policy, and research. I've been in a number of roles over the years, but probably most notable and most relevant for this conversation, I was executive director of SETA, the State Educational Technology Directors Associations, for about 5 years. I also served in a leadership role with the National Association of State Boards of Education, so a lot of experience with state level politics and policy and issues. And then I began my career at an organization that came to be acquired by the American Institutes for Research, but AIR is one of the premier research and policy shops. It does a lot of work with the U.S. Department of Education and education foundations across a wide range of issues related to education and actually other areas as well. Some of you may know me from something called the K-12 Cyber Incident Map. That is actually how I ended up getting into this work in the first place. You also may see me out and about. I am a frequent speaker and commentator in the media and also at events. The K-12 Cyber Incident Map was something that I created circa 2016 when I started digging deeper into this issue, and it became apparent to me that we didn't really have a great handle. Nobody had a great handle on sort of the frequency and severity of the types of cybersecurity incidents that schools were experiencing. There wasn't a great school-specific resource to provide guidance to school systems. And there was no sense of any sort of trends and even in basic information about like what these threat actors are after, et cetera. That work was done to raise awareness about this issue. And in doing that, it became quite clear to me that the education sector, that school systems not only needed, but in my view, deserved an organization that could be in their corner. And so that is why I work to found K-12 SIX with a number of colleagues, and why I still today serve as director. In that role, I've had the opportunity then to advise a number of prominent organizations about K-12 cybersecurity issues. I served on CISA's Cybersecurity Advisory Committee in the last administration, representing the K-12 sector on the director of CISA's deliberations about how that agency could help schools. Also served on the U.S. Department of Education's Government Coordinating Council, their Cybersecurity Advisory Committee, for the time that it was active as well. So broad background and deep background in these issues, and bring, of course, a personal passion to this as well. I am joined in the leadership of K-12 SIX by a steering committee representing, drawn itself from the membership. These are the names of the individuals on that steering committee at present. You'll notice that they are drawn from states all across the country, that they are representing school districts, small and large, public and non-public, and that we also have representatives from regional education agencies and even state departments of education. So we do serve the K-12 sector writ large in that regard. So representing and having representation from folks at all levels of the K-12 education system. So a little bit about K-12 SIX. So we are a nonprofit membership organization, in many respects like an association, but in cybersecurity parlance, we operate as an ISAC, an Information Sharing and Analysis Center. We are an ISAC, not an ISAL, for those who are familiar with the differences, because K-12 education is a critical sector as defined by the federal government. We do work under the umbrella at K-12 SIX, under the umbrella of the Global Resilience Federation, or GRF as we refer to it. GRF itself spun out of the Financial Services ISAC, one of the largest, most successful, and longest running ISACs of any anywhere. And so we come with a deep grounding in the business of being an ISAC, the perspective of working in other sectors and understanding how other sectors are addressing this issue, but then also with a deep background in K-12 and the unique context and needs for our sector. We are focused exclusively on issues of K-12 cybersecurity, and helping our members to better defend their school systems from all the risks that they're facing today. We do not focus primarily on issues of physical security. There are a lot of resources that are available for schools with respect to physical security. Those have been available for many, many years, and obviously very important, but that was an area that we felt was covered well by others. We're also not focused on the teaching and learning of cybersecurity to students. We're not focused on curriculum for students. Certainly issues of workforce development, introducing kids to coding, to AI, to cybersecurity concepts is certainly very important and valuable work. Instead, we are really focused on helping school leaders defend their school systems today from the threats they are facing today. And then I would also note, because there is this Venn diagram that shows the overlap between privacy and security. There has been quite a bit of work that has been done on student data privacy, particularly over the last decade. It is relevant to our work, but cybersecurity work goes well beyond issues just of student privacy. It encompasses the privacy of others connected with school systems, including teachers, administrators, parents, and even volunteers and vendors. And it also covers sort of technical issues and performance of the network itself, right? And continued access to it. So that our focus is really very is as I've described it, we are an inch wide and a mile deep, and that inch wide is K-12 cybersecurity today. We do act as an independent nonprofit. By independent, I mean that we're not federally funded. We are not reliant either on federal threat intel. We are not constrained by federal priorities. The federal government shutdown has no practical effect on a day-to-day basis for us. Obviously, we do receive communications from CISA and other federal agencies about cybersecurity alerts. And so we do collaborate with the federal government, but we do not rely on them, nor have we ever relied on them. We are also vendor agnostic. We do not sell any cybersecurity solutions, nor do we endorse them. We do not have value added solutions that we try to upsell our members on. You should not confuse us with being your MSP or MSSP. We are here to be a trusted advisor to you, to keep you apprised of information that you need to know, to provide you guidance, to provide community, right? That is fact-based. We have no interest in spreading sort of fear, uncertainty, and doubt about issues of K-12 cybersecurity. The issues are complicated enough without those, forces, sort of market forces trying to push people into doing things that may or may not fit their context. The other thing to know is that we've been around for a while already, right? So we are not a new organization that's just launched. We have been in operation since 2020. Our business model is stable and growing, and sort of wholly aligned with our mission of serving members. And certainly, you can read more about our member benefits on our website. We're going to go ahead and talk about that a little bit today. Before I do that, though, I do want to talk a little bit about the Global Resilience Federation and the benefits of our association with GRF. What the association with GRF brings us is access to cross-sector insights and expertise. We have information sharing agreements and, in fact, even share some staff with a number of other ISAs and ISACs that we directly operate at the Global Resilience Federation, including those focused on serving the legal sector, the operational technology sector, the energy sector, manufacturing, professional services, et cetera. And then we have sharing agreements with a number of other ISACs, including REN ISAC and MS ISAC, on the right side of this slide. This allows us to provide our services at a lower cost because our administrative costs are lower by sharing those back office operations. But it also ensures that members of the K-12 sector are getting top-notch threat intel, the same threat intel that is being provided to and relied upon by the private sector. That is what we are also providing to K-12 members, with the added benefit of staff dedicated to looking for and vetting K-12 specific information. So with that being said, with that introduction, I'd love to invite the K-12 SIX members onto today's call. If you could turn your cameras on. I'm pleased to have joining us Andy Lombardo from Maryville City Schools. Andy has recently joined us on some other webinars. So Andy, thank you for joining us again today. Laura Pollock, who is from New York and associated with NASTech, and engaged in work with the RICS and the BOCES up in New York, and she can tell us more about that. And then finally, Dave Robinson, who is representing non-public schools for us today, and he is with the Baylor School, which is located in Tennessee. So Dave and Andy just happen to be from Tennessee, but from different sides of the public, non-public fence in K-12, but still K-12. So I have a few questions that I wanted to pose to these K-12 SIX members who are with us today. And maybe Andy, I will start with you. And it's kind of a two-part question by way of introduction, so I apologize for that. So if you need to take a few minutes, that's okay. But how did you kind of come first to K-12 cybersecurity and caring about that? And then why did you become a K-12 SIX member?
Yeah, so like a lot of people in this role, I started out as a classroom teacher, and I was kind of the de facto tech person in every school I ever worked in. And so over time, kind of transitioned into kind of instructional technology. And then when I had a chance to jump into my current role, that's also over operations, I don't like not knowing what I'm doing. So I kind of jumped wholeheartedly into infrastructure technology, went back to school, got a bunch of certifications. And while I was doing that, I was just reading and consuming everything I could about cybersecurity and technology. And I saw a YouTube video about doing NTLM hash captures and then cracking passwords with Hashcat. And as soon as I saw that video, I was like, okay, I'm all in on the cyber stuff. And so that was kind of my transition from classroom teacher to cybersecurity practitioner and technologist, and kind of that role jump. And then in terms of becoming a member of K-12 SIX, as part of that transition, I'm always seeking out community in anything I do. So like I just love getting with like-minded people and geeking out. And so during the pandemic, I was looking for that kind of something to fill that niche for me of people in K-12, also people involved in cybersecurity. And K-12 SIX is just about the only show in town when it comes to finding those people in the same place. And so joined initially in 2020, early 2021, somewhere in that time frame, pretty close to the beginning of the launch. I think I'd stumbled on the K-12 cyber incident map. It was my first introduction to K-12 SIX. But then joined, and then as part of just everything going on at the time, I was super overwhelmed, didn't know what was going on, just staying full of things to do all day anyway. And then so I let the membership lapse. I didn't take advantage. I didn't use resources. I pretty much signed up, cut a check, and didn't log back in. And so let the membership lapse. And a couple years later, came back, um, kind of in the wake of the Power School incident last year, where I was in an affected district. And I was trying to find people, trying to find resources, and there are so few things that are K-12 centric in our field that every time I was looking for help with Power School, K-12 SIX is the place I was going to and the place where I was finding people. And so that kind of reignited that interest in K-12 SIX. And so rejoined on the heels of Power School, and have been trying to get more involved in just, you know, the breadth and depth of resources that we're going to talk about today is just a great asset for K-12. So I'm a true believer in what you guys are doing. So yeah, that's me. That's how I came into cybersecurity and K-12 SIX.
Thanks, Andy. Laura, how about your perspectives?
No, thank you. So, I started working, I was a computer teacher and then like kind of a tech director. And then I came to work at NASA BOCES, which is a Board of Cooperative Education Services that supports 56 districts in our county. And a position opened up to support a data privacy and security service that we offer to our districts, which was small when I first came on, but now almost all of our districts are members of the local service, which is great. And the more I learned about this service and had to find resources and support our school districts, the more I was learning about cybersecurity. We focus a lot on data privacy, but we also focus on cybersecurity. And the more I saw the ransomware attacks happening and the threats that were out there, like the more you just dig in. And now every time I see anything, I trust nothing. And I'm always worried about, if that malicious and should I warn somebody about something? It just gets in your head, and it just became paramount to try to protect that data. And in addition to being able to support my local service, I'm also a part of a larger initiative across New York State where our 12 regional information centers work together, which is how I came to have a K-12 SIX membership, which I'm very grateful for. I was aware of K-12 SIX before that, and I did use their public resources, and I already had a COSIN membership, which I also benefit from. But since we've become, since I've been able to be a member of K-12 SIX and access those paywall services, I've just been able to, leverage more resources, more information that can benefit our districts. And it's been a great experience so far.
Thanks, Laura. Dave, tell us your story.
Sure. So I come from, I guess, a slightly different pathway here. And so for context, as Doug said, I'm CIO at Baylor School. We're a co-ed independent boarding and day school, grades 6 through 12, and we serve about 1,100 students. So we're kind of on the smaller end of a lot of the membership. And we're a relatively new member as well. And I was just thinking, Doug, you introduced this as a two-part question. For me, I think it's actually a three-part question. Because my background prior to this position, all my IT leadership experience was exclusively in higher ed. So that was in large state university system, small state campus, private liberal arts college. And as you might imagine, cybersecurity has always been important and certainly growing important part of the profile of a higher ed CIO. Had developed cyber programs in the past. I was a member of the steering committee of the REN ISAC, which is the Research and Education Network ISAC that higher ed uses. So I was already sold on why I cared about cyber. But then the K-12 part came, when I finally saw the light after all this higher ed experience and decided to move to K-12. I was eager to learn much more about the sector, its threats, what was specific to K-12 versus, what I knew about higher ed and cyber. And I came across K-12 SIX while I was researching during the interview process to be here. And so, ultimately, I guess the quick answer to why do I become a member is because I got the job. But so in K-12, I already knew the general benefits of an ISAC. But what really stood out to me is while I was doing this research and preparing myself for interview and learning more about the sector, I was really impressed by the tools and resources that are available from K-12, even to non-members. And so it was very clearly a member-centered organization and mission-driven for K-12, which I think your introduction showed well. And at the same time, moving into a relatively small school with a small IT team, no cyber-specific FTE. And so I needed help and resources, on day one. And I think actually, I meant to look this up. If it wasn't the first invoice I signed, the K-12 SIX membership was certainly one of the very first.
Fun. That's fun. I didn't actually know that story entirely, Dave, and we have no connection to Baylor, so we didn't influence that hiring process whatsoever. Andy, I'm not sure you said how many students do you serve in your district?
We serve right at 5,500 students.
Got it. And then Laura, what's the range of sizes of the districts that you serve?
We do have smaller districts that are only K-6 in my county. So those will be like a very much, and sometimes there's very small districts that have it's very small, let's say beachside community. I know in way out east, there's a schoolhouse district that's under 100 kids, so it really varies versus we do have some larger school districts that might probably be considered medium-sized districts for most people. And so everyone has different needs. It's funny. It's they all have different amounts of kids, but their needs are kind of the same. And their budgets and resources vary based on size, and location. So we're always trying to, level the ground for them and make sure everyone gets what they need.
Yeah, I will say that from our perspective, we're really striving to serve organizations of all sizes in K-12, and we have, as you've heard, some very small members, but we also have some of the very largest school districts in the nation are also members. And the other way they vary, of course, in addition to being from different states, is that they're in different levels of cybersecurity maturity, right? And so we have some members that have, I would even hazard to say, more than one cybersecurity FTE. So they have cybersecurity teams and have been running a program maybe for some time. And then I think we have quite a few where it is a one-person shop and cybersecurity feels like a new responsibility. They don't have a lot of background in it. They may not have a lot of support from their administration for it. And they're just trying to do the best that they can in their circumstances. And I will say, Laura, that's one of the reasons in particular that we're very intentionally have tried to work with regional education agencies, which is kind of our umbrella term for your organization across the country, and also state departments of ed. We know that we can't reach everyone. We can't provide the support that everybody needs. And regional and state agencies, that is your mission to do that. So we can't replace those trusted relationships, but if we can support you to support them, we all win. Just wanted to sort of lay that out. I think in some organizations, when they have folks who are joining as parts of states or regions, that relationship may not be as aligned in that way. I think we would like this work to be sustainable and meaningful at the local level. We're only going to do that with people who already have those trust relationships and that role of providing that support. Why don't we move on to the next question, and maybe we'll kind of snake back around the opposite way and sort of start with you this time, Dave. Can you talk a little bit more concretely, I guess, maybe about how you've benefited your organization or you personally have benefited from your membership in K-12 SIX? Oh, you're muted there, Dave.
Yeah, so just reflecting on so many ways that we've benefited already. When I think about that initial starting up, kind of starting here, getting things situated, thinking about what it would take to put a program together, what was really helpful at that point was, from day one of K-12 SIX membership, there was immediate access to the member portal, and there was daily threat intelligence, summaries of K-12 specific threats, cyber news. And so it was all there, ready and curated. And at the same time, there were resources provided, I guess, out of the box, if you like, for things like out-of-band secure communications. And so it was there. We can use it right away. We didn't have to think about, oh, we need to put this program together. How are we going to do that? It was there. And I think the most impactful kind of benefit came just a few months after joining, and that was the annual conference. And that really brought together, first of all, my suspicions from my research, and kind of bolstered the idea that, yeah, this really is a kind of phenomenal culture and organization where you can talk with people about your experiences, challenges, successes, share that, know that you're in a supportive kind of environment. But at the same time, there are also these core tools that are available, like assessment tools, that I could quickly get an idea of where I needed to focus. Again, with that K-12 centric component, I had an idea coming from higher ed, but those tools in particular helped me kind of refocus, like, okay, it's a slightly different threat profile here. These are the things we need to pivot and look at. And then, I'll kind of jump ahead as well. Those are things that helped immediately. And as we've, over the last couple of years, matured our cyber program, we're now taking advantage of kind of what I would say is much more advanced benefits, like automated threat intelligence feeds directly into our SIM that come, and again, K-12 specific, and that's doing things in the background for us, every day. I could go on, but I know my colleagues here have got other things to share as well, so I'll stop there for now.
Thanks. Laura?
Well, I was aware of K-12 SIX for a long time, before the membership became available to me. Once first from the map, I was always like following the map all the time. And then you guys would like share the latest ransomware events. And so we would kind of share that information and try to send out, warnings related to when we felt like it was local or it could hit close to home, which I really appreciated. And then when I think one of the biggest things that was a help to me recently was the Power School snap calls, because yeah, you're waiting for Power School to like meet with you because they have to meet with everyone who's trying to get a meeting with them. And by pulling together everyone and sharing the information that you did have, and then also giving us an opportunity to sit in on the federal meeting as well, which only would have happened by sitting in your snap call. I never would have had that information otherwise. It really made me feel better informed. It made me feel like I had more information to better support my districts that use Power School in my region. And it just really was a game changer in terms of our response. I felt like we really were able to better support them through that because of it. And I thank you for that. I also feel like I do get a lot of information from different ISACs and through LinkedIn and, other sources that tell me about cyber events. But the fact that it is so focused on K-12 really helps me get through that information much faster, because not everything is for K-12 to know. If our sector isn't involved, I don't need to, share that information out. So I really love that you're doing that work, and kind of streamlining it for us so we don't have to figure out, is this important to me and my districts? And is this something I need to share? The fact that we have that opportunity to share threats that we've experienced locally, and get that information from other members is such a big help as well. Like knowing what that phishing email might look like, where it might be coming from, indicators of compromise, all of that information is so worth sharing. So I really feel between that, the member meetings where we can, bring up questions and talk things through and share our best practices. It's really been just the more I engage with the membership, the more I see the benefits.
Thanks, Laura. So Andy, is there anything left to say?
I was going to say, I can just say ditto to everything that Laura and Dave said, but I'll add on to it a little bit. I mentioned previously about the importance of community to me, and then Dave alluded to the conference. That was really essential for me, that this was the right place. Just being in a room with so many like-minded people in the same shoes, doing the same kinds of jobs, facing the same kind of constraints, was very empowering. And so of all the organizations I'm a part of, there are great things in lots of organizations, but I've made more kind of ongoing relationships with people in K-12 cybersecurity from K-12 SIX than I have from other organizations. And so that's been very, 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 very valuable to me. And then beyond that, some of the like very specific concrete resources that you all make available. So one that I keep going back to the well on time and time again is there's the compromised account checklist that you all publish. There was a time when I started the job when I thought, oh, okay, accounts compromised, reset the password, we're good. And so it's just really there. If you're not aware, there are a lot more things to do when there's a compromised account. And so having that kind of ready checklist of all the things you're doing, from signing out sessions, resetting MFA, checking API connections, app registrations, all that kind of stuff. That compromised account checklist is gold. So if you don't have your own that you use, I would definitely check out K-12 SIX's, or make sure that yours isn't missing something. So that's a great resource. The incident response runbook that you guys publish, if you're having trouble getting started or knowing what to do with incident response, it's a ready-made template for you just basically fill in the blanks to prepare an incident response plan. So I remember when I started building an incident response plan for the first time, pre-AI, was forever trying to track down all the things to include. What do I need to think about this? What do I need to include here? And I spent so much time making the structure and the format that I could have just downloaded from K12 SIX and filled in the blanks and been done by lunch. The self-assessment that you all have, fantastic. So one of the key pieces, things people ask me for all the time in K-12 cybersecurity is where do I get started? And I'm a huge, huge believer in that idea that what gets measured gets improved. And there are so many different cyber frameworks and things out there that it's really tough to, I mean, you can throw a dart at the board and say, okay, I'm going to do NIST or CIS or whatever. But then once you crack that open, there are so many different facets and things to focus on. And K-12 SIX's checklist with the essentials, the self-assessment is just phenomenally targeted, K-12 specific, and real world. So like there's not a lot of, you know, I'll call it bureaucratic overhead over it that you have to like go and research this to understand it. It is just very straightforward. So just all those kinds of resources like that that you guys make available are very concretely beneficial to me and my organization.
So I would say the great thing about those guidance resources that you're talking about, Andy, and others mentioned as well, um, those are actually developed with member committees. I mean, so they're developed by your peers. You all have participated in some of those meetings. And this is stuff that has been refined over the years based on feedback from members. So this isn't some outside group coming up with ideas for what schools should do. As you said, you could just do a quick search online and find all the cybersecurity guidance you would ever want, and most of it would be not that great and certainly not targeted to schools. And by just bringing people together and creating stuff that was K-12 specific, I think that is accessible. We're not trying to reinvent NIST or CIS or the other comprehensive frameworks. We're just trying to give a place for our members, those folks in K-12 systems, a place to start. We kind of talk about, before you do that whole inventory of your house and have the whole emergency plan, you just kind of shut the windows and lock the doors. And that's really what the advice is focused on. And then obviously, once people get to a certain level of maturity, they can go beyond that. We can talk about those things, but I think the point of a lot of that guidance is try to getting everybody onto some kind of baseline of good practice that's reasonable for most school systems, kind of no matter their size or maturity. So, I guess I kind of want us to take credit for that, but it is actually our members that built it. So it's the community that built it together, and so it's really terrific work. I definitely want to give a shout out to April Murdoch, who's now with SIPSI in Washington State. She's been the chair of our technical working group for some time now, and really her vision has been helping to drive those technical resources forward. But there have been dozens and dozens of contributors within the membership and even beyond over time. So definitely exciting stuff. Before I sort of ask you the next question, I do kind of want to just go over a quick summary of those benefits. You've talked kind of mixed and matched different ones. I just want to present those kind of relatively quickly, all in one, so that folks have a sense of the scope of the things that we do. So as an ISAC, the bread and butter and what we are doing day to day, and we have staff dedicated to doing, is keeping our eyes on incidents, vulnerabilities, threats that our members need to know. And those are sourced from a number of private providers and other sources. So I mentioned that we are independent of the federal government, so we do rely on a number of private intelligence providers, other ISACs and ISAOs that we have relationships with. As I said, we're certainly happy to get threat intel from the federal government and welcome it when we get it. It's often not K-12 specific, or in some cases even K-12 relevant. But then, of course, OSINT, as we refer to it, but other open sources. We do make indicators of compromise available through a threat intelligence feed. This is something that Dave mentioned. And so if you have the ability to ingest a STIX taxi feed. We do provide one that provides a K-12 specific feed as well as a cross-sector feed, courtesy of our relationship with the Global Resilience Federation. Um, Now, the alerts can be overwhelming, and we know they can be overwhelming. And so we provide a number of sort of summary reports on different cadences. So we have a daily cyber threat awareness report. On a weekly basis, we provide updates on the activity of ransomware gangs. Often that information is not yet public. Weekly vulnerability reports summarizing all of those systems that need to be patched because they are vulnerable to being exploited. And then on a monthly basis, we are actually monitoring a cross section of ed tech vendors for compromised credentials associated with their domains. And now to help our members kind of digest all this, we do hold regular briefings and meetings. On a monthly basis, we have a K-12 specific threat intel call, our monthly member meeting. But we also have a monthly cross-sector threat briefing that we hold. So basically every month, members have the ability to attend two broad briefings on cybersecurity news and incidents and events they need to know about. We do have a weekly member-to-member water cooler. And I think Dave mentioned as well an annual conference that I'll talk a little bit more about later. In terms of member-to-member sharing, so I just mentioned the water cooler. Laura mentioned the ability for members themselves to share threat intel. And as an ISAC, we're able to accept these submissions, to anonymize them, to enhance them and vet them, and then redistribute them to our members. And I will say, as great as private intel providers are, as great as the federal government is in providing threat intel, frankly, the best threat intelligence is coming from our members themselves. They're seeing what is challenging them first and foremost, right? And it is often only later that things get sort of summarized and shared. And so some of that has been the most impactful threat intel that's been shared. And then we're also able to handle RFIs, requests for information. So if a member is struggling with a new policy or how to implement a control or is considering between 3 different EDR vendors and they just want insights, right? They can poll essentially the other members in a confidential way to get those insights from them. We do have a number of ways we can get in touch with people in emergencies. And we do have a secure out-of-band communication channel in case you do lose access to your communications or you just want to make sure that those communications are secure. And then I think a number of folks have mentioned sort of ad hoc or snap meetings. And we will call those meetings when circumstances dictate. So we have a regular cadence, but if there's a breaking incident, we'll call a snap meeting and let people know what we know and then solicit other information from our members. So I know, Andy, you said you benefited from the Power School information. You are among those in the sector that were working hard to try to learn what was going on and sharing that more broadly as well. And so in some cases, I can't remember specifically, but you could very well have been sharing information with us that we weren't privy to yet. And that's basically the power of how the ISAC works and the community works, right? Many eyes, many hands, like make work easier by working together. So with that kind of summary there, sort of the last thing I'll ask you is it's really sort of the pitch. So if we have folks who are listening who are on the fence about membership, why do you think they should consider joining? And I'm not sure who'd like to jump in first here, but go ahead and do that. All right, Andy, go ahead.
Yep, I can jump in. So for me, I think the real question breaks down to kind of what maturity level your organization is at when it comes to cybersecurity. And so depending on which maturity level you're at, there are different reasons. So if you're at that point of just starting out and you don't know what to do, a lot of those resources like the K-12 Essentials are a great starting point to, jump in, get your feet wet, and, have a supportive community behind you. If you're kind of farther along at a more medium maturity level, it really helps to separate the signal from the noise when it comes to getting those K-12 specific alerts. So that's been super valuable for me kind of in that role. And then as your maturity level gets higher as a program, there are ways and opportunities for you to contribute back and to have a part in, like you mentioned earlier, all the member created materials. You can share that expertise that got you to that higher maturity level with the community at large. And you can hop, you may be at different maturity levels at different parts of your program, so you can hop in and take advantage of different things in different places as you need to.
Wonderful. Dave or Laura?
Yeah, I'd add, so I think this is the best cost benefit ratio you can get for investing in K-12 cyber. And put that in context, for us and the size of our organization, effectively for the cost of a laptop, we get a year of all of this. And there's nowhere else that can, kind of match that. I think also emphasizing that it keeps coming up, and there's a reason for that because of the community part. So if you're on the fence, there's no reason to be. We can help you down. But if you want to learn from or contribute to or both K-12 cyber, then this is by far the best place to do that.
Thanks. Laura?
Thank you. Everything they said, obviously, and to build on what Dave was sharing, there really isn't any other ISAC or like national organization that specifically focuses on K-12 cyber, which is different than other organizations. One, we don't have the resources that corporations have, so we really do have to depend on each other for information. We can't always hire a third party to do that work for us. And I've seen other cybersecurity conferences, they almost never, they won't have a K-12 thread. We've tried, we've asked, can you please add a K-12 sector thread to your conferences? And they just don't want to because they don't see the need, which, is baffling to us, I'm sure, but that is what we come across a lot. Or it isn't really focused specifically on cybersecurity. It's kind of cybersecurity light, more focused on privacy, and then other topics as well. Or they're trying to squeeze it into an instructional technology conference. Like this is hyper focused on K-12 cyber. And I don't think anything else exists like that right now, which is, I think, a huge benefit. And it's filling a niche for us. It's filling a hole that we have. And I'm very grateful for that. So thank you.
So I'm curious, I want to follow up with you, Laura, and also Andy, you mentioned it as well, because you were a member and then you lapsed and you came back. I think for me, it's always a little bit of a challenge because it feels like we're the type of organization where you get more out of it by being able to invest more. And so if you're a one-person shop or a small shop, you're sort of regularly running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Like there's just so much on your plate. And cybersecurity is just one aspect of the job for so many of our members who are in sort of smaller, medium districts. Do you have advice for how folks should think about it if they're coming from that sort of a situation where, I mean, honestly speaking, it's probably the majority of the number of school systems or school, that are out there. We have a lot of large school systems, but they're dwarfed by the number of smaller school systems we have around the country. How should people in those smaller shops think about membership?
Yeah, and I think so. I'm coming from that background in particular. So my department has doubled since I had the membership that first time. And so at that point, it was very much, hair on fire all the time. And, cybersecurity even technically isn't part of my job description. It's just there's no one in our district who that is part of their job description. So other duties is assigned right here. Just so happens I love those other duties. So one thing you mentioned, maybe I'm taking it a different way, but when you said, the more you put in, the more you get out of it. I think it's one of those like K-12 SIX is here, but it's not going to just magic wand and improve things. There are a lot of my mistake the first time around is that I didn't dive in, I didn't look, I didn't go hunting for what you were offering. And I just didn't know of what resources were there. So a webinar like this would have done wonders for me, 5 years ago. And so I do think there's a little bit of elbow grease required on the district's part that you can get it more out of it the more you put into it, and the
Mhm.
more you go hunting. They're just there are
Yeah.
layers, layers to K-12 SIX.
There are, and I also think you can streamline how you receive information, right? Because they do let you decide what kind of alerts do you want to receive. So if you are running around and you can't be digging through media articles and Googling breach information, figure out what kind of alerts or information is important to you and make sure it gets to your inbox. In addition, there's a community and there are forums. So if you have a question and you don't know how to address something, you can bring it to the community and see if someone has encountered what you've encountered or if someone has a good way for you to address that because we can't all know everything. But when you're a part of a larger community, someone might know something and you can lean on that. Because being in like I think a lot of people in this work, especially in a small school, feel very siloed and don't have anyone to turn to who works in that particular, because it's a very particular role, being a K-12 cybersecurity person responsible for protecting student data and staff data. So, you know, instead of feeling like you're alone and there's no one to turn to, you can be part of this greater community who's very willing to share and help. And I think that anytime you have that opportunity in whatever role you're in, it's worth taking.
Um, I want to thank all of you for the insights that you've shared, for the kind things you've said about K-12 6. We've built this with you, and I hope that we continue to evolve to meet the needs of the members. And of course, as the membership grows, we're serving even more of the sector. Before we get to some of the questions, and please do, if you've got them, use that Q&A feature. I do want to make sure that folks are available or one, know how to join and who's eligible to join, but then also know about the free resources that we have available that you can take advantage of, even if you're not a member. So to be clear, because we haven't covered it specifically, um, we do limit our membership to sort of schools, school systems, and those directly supporting them, right? So regular school districts, charters, non-public schools, private schools, regional ed agencies, state departments of ed. And then because every state is a little bit different in how it's organized, we do have some other sort of K-12 support organizations, nonprofit or state government related, that also are members. Now, having said that, we do not have vendors who are members. We do have a program at GRF that they can belong to. We certainly are happy and benefit from sponsorship by a number of vendors, but we are strictly vendor agnostic and they're not members of the community. For those of you that have employed an MSP and you've outsourced your IT services, you can join and designate your MSP contact as your contact for your membership. But if you are in an MSP, you cannot join directly. And then everyone is bound by the same information sharing agreements, terms, etc. So we're able to maintain this sort of circle of trust with everyone. We also don't. I don't like to play games, with annual fees or pricing. You don't have to call us or have a demo for me to give you pricing. It's all published on our website, and the ability to join is very straightforward. So you simply go to our website. In the main menu, there is an opportunity to select your sort of membership, new member application. It's a simple online application that you can fill out. Our fees are school friendly. We do what we can to keep our prices down. It is based on student enrollment if you're direct student serving organization. And as I mentioned, because it is a priority for us to build the capacity of the school system, state departments of ed and regional ed agencies like Laura is a member of are just provided membership at a flat fee. Otherwise, it's on a sliding scale based on student enrollment. Which means that the vast majority of school systems across the U.S. are paying $2,500 or less per year to be associated with K-12 SIX membership. Obviously, those prices do go up if you are a larger school district. So we do what we can to keep these rates low, but it's also important for us, in order to maintain the trust, to have a business model that is supported primarily by members, right, and is sufficient to have staff to do this work, which is 365 days a year, and pretty darn close to 24/7 in terms of keeping our eyes on things. Now, even for those who are not members, we do make a number of resources available for free to folks, or at least at a low cost. So we have started a public-facing biweekly newsletter that you can sign up for on our website, which will just keep you apprised of some of the biggest stories every couple of weeks. A number of folks here on the call have mentioned the guidance that we've put together, the Essential Cybersecurity Protection series, our Cyber Incident Response Runbook, the Compromised Accounts guidance. All of that is freely available on our website, as are the webinars public-facing webinars that we provide. And so we are running a series of webinars for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is this month, it's October. And so we'll actually have a webinar running every week, and you can learn about those upcoming webinars at that link. And then finally, the conference. And so we'll be hosting our 4th annual conference this year. We will be in Albuquerque in February. Definitely a beautiful place to be, particularly at that time of year for those of you who are a little bit further north. It really is the premier event for all things K-12 cybersecurity. It is the laser focus of that event. A lot of peer-to-peer collaboration. The vast majority of sessions are going to be peer-to-peer presentations and not presentations from vendors to the K-12 community. We will have a conference-wide tabletop exercise. We'll have a capture the flag competition and a whole lot more. We are running early bird rates through October 31 to attend the conference, and that conference is open to everyone in the K-12 community. Everybody who's eligible for membership is eligible to attend. Of course, members do get quite a significant discount. And then also, if you have a story to share, an incident that you've experienced, interesting advice you've learned in configuring some defenses, or even in how you've maybe convinced and got buy-in from leadership or other members of the school community to implement cybersecurity controls, we'd love to hear from you. And again, we are looking for peers to be presenting to peers. And we'd love even first-time presenters, and we'll be happy to support you in doing that. So that call for speakers is open through October 31. So with that being said, I am happy to take any questions that folks may have. I see that there was one question around a form of trial membership. We certainly, if you go to our website and just click the contact button, there'll be a contact form that pops up. And if you just go ahead and drop a note in there and ask for a trial membership, we'll see what we can do there. We do think it's important that you get a flavor for what we provide. And so we're happy to work with you to offer that. Other questions or comments that others may have? Andy, Laura, Dave, any closing words?
Just one thing I forgot to mention, with MS ISAC changing its structure and now charging organizations to join, if your state doesn't plan to provide an MS ISAC membership for you, that's an ISAC you no longer have access to, but something that you can get information about through K-12 SIX. So I feel like there's some, with the changes in the federal government and the shutdown in particular, there's a hole there that we need to fill. And I think K-12 SIX is really helping us with that loss that some people may experience.
And to just piggyback off that, I know if you're fortunate enough to be able to do this, I've talked to several districts that are trying to decide between doing MS ISAC long term or K-12 SIX long term. If you have the ability to do both for a year and then, head to head and see which one you got more value from, if you're fortunate enough to be able to have funding to do that, I think that's a great idea.
And I do know that we actually have some members that are in fact doing that very thing. I think it's absolutely unfortunate, those sort of changes that have happened. We don't like to see that loss of capacity for the sector, for the broader nation. I think our hope, at least, is that we've been sort of stable and growing organically before. We will be here going forward. And we are focused exclusively on K-12 and not the broader SLTT concerns, which are related but not always the same. So there was one question about the K-12 cyber incident map, and what I will say is that information that we glean to create the map, that is being provided to members on a regular basis. In terms of the public maintenance of that, that's a little bit of TBD. Right now, it is, as you might imagine, quite a task. And our priority, that was launched before K-12 SIX existed. And now that K-12 SIX exists, we are sort of focused first on serving members and providing guidance, and then to the degree that we can keep folks apprised of broader incidents, we'll do so. I would encourage you to sign up for that biweekly newsletter, and then you can be alerted at least to some of the more significant incidents that are happening on a regular basis. So I do see that we are right at time. So I want to thank everybody for participating today. I hope we were able to shed some light on what we're doing here at K-12 SIX. We'd love to have you as a member. Tell all your friends and bring them. And if membership is not in the cards for you right now, I would very much encourage you to attend the conference. And that way you can get to meet some of the folks involved with K-12 SIX and sort of kick the tires. So thanks very much. Have a great day and appreciate your attendance today. Thanks again, Andy, Laura, and Dave.